Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K, aka Trendcrusher. This week we're back to the UK and we're talking to Mastiff. More on that in a bit. But before we get to my chat with Mastiff, I want to play a track by an album that I've been looking forward to this year, Lifeless's Birth by the death metal act Necrot. Here's the first single from it, Cut the Cord. And that was Necrot with Cut the Cord off their upcoming album Lifeless Birth. It's currently on pre-order and releases on the 12th of April. More details in the show notes. Moving on, I got a chance to speak to Jim, the vocalist of Mastiff. Their album Deprecipice is out this weekend via Monarch Heavy, and we spoke about their evolution in sound, the story behind them being called the most miserable band from a miserable city, and a lot more. So here's my chat with Jim. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me.
So before we dive into our chat, I want to give quick shout outs to two people who actually have got Mastiff on my radar in the last few years. So number one, I think it's someone you know because I'm pretty sure you follow her on Twitter, and she goes by Lisa Loves Cheese. This is Lisa from Hold Tight PR. That's how actually I kind of figured or heard of Mastiff the first time a few years ago. And the second was Harry Knott from Burner, who actually was the previous guest on the podcast. And he kind of talked about you guys the last time he was on the podcast. So definitely it made sense that he kind of collaborated with you and was guest on the first single of your album. And first of all, thanks again, Lisa and Harry. I'm glad finally I'm getting to do this. But I want to start off before we dive into the album, because you'll have, we're talking like a month in advance of your album release. One of the things that really, when I was reading up on the band, I saw this tagline and I had to definitely ask you about it. Is it says on your write-up on, I think, Bandcamp, if I'm not mistaken, a miserable band from a miserable city. Now, for context, I live in India, and I honestly feel that this could be a band from India, Mumbai, where there's, I don't know, like 10 million plus people. Tell me, where did this stem from, and does it still hold? That's why it's still a write-up that you have?
Yeah, well, we're from England. We're from Hull in England, and if anyone's ever visited there, they'll know exactly what we mean. It is a very self-deprecating city, very negative, whatever you want to say, but it's only negative for people who are from outside the city. So to us, people will insult it ourselves, but we will defend it to the nth degree. So it's a great city if you know what you're doing here. I'm sure, like you've just said, maybe Mumbai is probably, it's vastly smaller than Mumbai, but it's our city and we love it to bits, but it is a miserable place if you're from here.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that caught my eye, but also when I was reflecting on it, is why I resonate with a lot of metal music, right? Because, and especially for me, considering I have a day job and I do the podcast and listen to metal, there was a time where I would actually go in formals to work. So you would never actually know that I was into like metal music and stuff like that. And at the off chance that someone from my office caught me at a metal show, their first reaction was like, holy fuck, I had no idea you would be into metal. And I was like, I think I do a pretty good job of hiding it.
As well, isn't it? Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we wear it as a badge of honor particularly, but once people start putting radios on at work and the music then leads to arguments because it's never good enough for us as metalheads. Everybody, well, not that we hate every other type of music, but it's a very not closed doors either. It's very, but it's just, we like what we like, and we don't make a big thing of it until we have to. Until we have to defend it, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's a great way to kind of warm up the chat. And please forgive me because I'm pretty sure this is not an actual word. Because I was trying to rack my head on how I'm actually going to say your album title, which is
Well, yeah, a lot of people don't worry because a lot of people have struggled with it.
okay.
It was yeah, it was a little thing that popped into my head when we were writing the album, and it stuck. So you pronounce it Deprecipice.
Deprecipice.
So yeah, it's not as bad as it looks. It's pretty straightforward when you get your head around it, but it's yeah, it's obviously depression and standing on the edge of the precipice.
Yeah.
So the two
Oh,
stuck together basically.
okay. So we're talking a month in advance. Uh, so standard question that I ask everyone that I'm talking so much in advance to, right? How does it feel now that you're actually doing press around the album and stuff like that? Like, has it actually sunk in that the album's going to be out soon? What's that entire process been like for you?
Well, we've been sat on this album for nearly a year now.
Oh,
So
wow.
for us, yeah, we've almost sort of like come full. Well, we have come full circle for it. So it's great to finally start talking about it. We you know we love the album, but because of everybody else putting albums out and everybody wanted to do vinyl, this
Oh, my
then
God.
puts you, yeah, it sets you back 8 months easily nowadays. So that's why we've had to wait so long to put it out. Um, Not that we don't love this album, but we're all already sort of starting to write the next one, whatever that will be, or whenever that will be, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, so to start talking to people like yourself, it's great. Finally, it sort of livens us up again and gets us back in the mood for hopefully tours, gigs, festivals, whatever's to come.
Yeah. And that's cool because, like, one of the things I didn't realize that it's been so long since you kind of recorded the album. So we'll definitely double tap on that in a bit. But again, I have to go back to the press release because as someone who gets like on a daily basis at least 5 to 10 albums, and especially with bands that have multiple releases, the most common thing, and I'm pretty sure you've also read it because I'm gonna reference Pearl Jam, who's not a metal band, but I'm pretty sure a lot of metalheads listen to.
They're one
Uh,
of my favorite ones,
yeah,
so don't worry about that.
the headline for their latest album in press promotion says, "This is our best album yet," and I was like, "Come on, guys! Like, how many times are you gonna say this kind of thing?" And
Yeah, well,
it's the
you've
same
got to,
thing.
yeah, it's a bit of a gimmick, I suppose, isn't
Yeah,
it? You've
yeah,
got to sell it for the best album, but you know, you would never admit going backwards.
yeah.
Um, but I'm sure you know I'm stealing your question here, but it is well, it's not. It is our best, but it's a change in direction slightly. It's a bit more hardcore than the last one.
Which is
Um,
what I was gonna say. Like, it's such a contrast to all of these, where you say, "Hey, we've gone more hardcore," whereas the last one was more death metal. And tell me about that process. I mean, was that like something that was conscious? Because let's be honest, one of the things I like about Mastiff is it appeals to both, right? There's a bit of like that hardcore, punky vibe to it. Uh, the overall impression I leave with is just like it's like constantly pummeling down on you, and it also leaves you with that very suffocating kind of feeling, right? And
yeah, well, I guess.
I was watching your
Oh,
live
sorry.
videos to see what it's like, and I was like, holy shit! Like, I saw your Bloodstock show, so that was different. But I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, 100 to
You see,
150
for us,
person
for us
thing.
live wise, for us live wise, we would not prefer, but I think we thrive better in a smaller environment.
Hmm.
Just thriving off the crowd almost. We like people in our faces. We like to have an interaction with the crowd. But I mean, you can't turn away from massive gigs because they're amazing as well. They have their own sort of thing and they get you out there and what have you. But um, where were we going with that first question? I guess the first part of the question was
The sound. So how do you
yeah.
kind
So
of
the sound is written because we're a band that we write in a practice room. So
Okay.
there's 5 of us perhaps in a room. There's no like sending each other, bits and bobs of songs particularly. It's all done live. We'd like to record. We like to write and what have you. With all 5 of us involved, there's never sort of any of us away for longer than 1 minute. You know what I mean? It's just so it captures what all the rest of the band are playing or feeling or what have you at the time. So I think obviously maybe one of us has had a more of a hardcore input on it maybe than the last time, where who knows what we were listening to. Obviously some probably a bit more death metal, I guess. So it rubs off on you like any band. You know, whatever you're listening to at the time, it's it does help to meld you into what the direction you're going to be.
Okay. And since you kind of talked about that, right? How do you or how would you kind of describe the environment that was in the jam room while you were working on this record, right? At which point did you realize that y'all were heading towards this direction? Was that something where y'all said, okay, because, and the way I'm coming from is a lot of times it's not something that you can force down, right? It's a feeling. And especially when it's 5 people, it's like literally sometimes something kind of possesses you or takes you to it. Was that something that you all felt where you all kind of realized, hey, this is the sound, and it united all 5 of you to kind of work towards?
Certainly on a couple of the tracks, I would think you're probably, hitting the nail on the head there. But I mean, I think you almost don't notice what you're writing until we've recorded it. And once it's recorded and you step back and you go, all right, okay, it sounds this direction, or it sounds much more like this. So I think, for us as musicians, or whatever you want to call us, there's never an aim or never a target to, it writes itself, and then whatever it is, and whatever somebody else tags us with moniker wise, or genre wise or whatever, that we rely on other people to tell us what we think or they think it sounds like, rather than us telling people what we think it is. It's a bit more of a sharper or shorter sort of staccato sound, I think, rather than like there was a bit more of like a open-ended feel to Leave Me the Ashes, which is our previous album. So I think, that's the only reason we think it's more hardcore, because other people have told us it's more hardcore, I guess.
Okay, so I think it's time that for all listening and trying to figure out, hey, what the hell are these guys yanking about, or yakking about, I must say, about the sound. What track would you recommend we play to just give them a taste of the album?
Well, I guess, the obvious one is the first single off it, which was Serrated, which has our friend Harry on, Harry Not From Burner, which we mentioned earlier. So I think that would be the perfect place to go.
Awesome. So here's Serrated. Okay, that was Serrated by Mastiff off their upcoming album. And I've got Jim, the vocalist of the band. Now, one of the things also that I realized when I was reading up on the band was that you said this was the first album that you worked on as part of Monarchy. Uh, how did that kind of factor in or play? Or it didn't really make a difference that you're a part of a label now and the entire thing. I mean, obviously you spoke at the start about just how the entire release gets affected, but does that have an impact on the writing aspect at all?
Well, because so if not to correct you, but we were on E1, which changed its name to Monarch.
Okay.
So um, this album is the second for this record company, but it's it is the first. You're right, it is the first for Monarch, but so. But I think if when we were writing it, we were worried what somebody else thought, you would always second guess, and you would never write.
Hmm.
It would never get written. I don't think the album. You'd need to sort of realize that they haven't signed us for. I guess they, because in our eyes we're self-deprecating. They haven't signed us for a big payday, because you're never going to get a big payday off, music like ours.
Yeah.
But I think they've signed us because they like us, I guess. I would hope so anyway. So, yeah, I don't think, no, there's never been an input, never been a process where we're thinking it has to be this, it has to be, it has to sound like something. I don't, I think it's what it is. It's when we've finished writing and we go, okay, we've got half an hour of music. That's the only decision that sort of has an influence on it.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that also, right, is because one of the things that would also have happened is just as part of E1, which is now Monarch, you get exposed to a completely new audience itself, considering they're American. I mean, and consider this: I'm sitting halfway around the world, listening to y'all and going, what the fuck is happening in this kind of thing, right? Or where the hell are these guys coming from? So that's where I was also kind of coming in. But I have to ask you, right? I mean, uh, when you kind of worked on that single itself, considering we talked about it, was doing a collaboration or having guests something that you had thought about, or was that something that just chanced upon considering how well you'll know Burner?
No, I think we'd sort of wanted to. On the last album, we wanted to have a couple of people, and it just didn't work out. And then we met Berner, and a great friendship has risen out of that. They're superb blokes. They're just so easy to get on with, and hopefully we are. So we've asked that, we asked Harry, and I'm sure we would have asked the rest of the band if there'd have been physical room inside the building. But Harry was always going to be the obvious guest, I guess. So yeah, we've always wanted to have certain people on albums and what have you, but it never has a chance of arose before. So that was the simple answer, really. We just we looked out, and the time was perfect. Harry could do it, and so away we went.
And that's cool because I feel also what happens is there's a certain kind of bonding I feel with English bands. And I've spoken in the last year to quite a few, Burner being one, All Fathers another. And
Yeah,
you see that a lot of these bands are not like you from like the bigger cities, right? As someone who's kind of a self-confessed music nerd, I love reading about like the origins and just going back to the early days of Black Sabbath and stuff like that. I mean, I'm yet to visit England, but no surprises where I'm going to end up the first place, right? I'm not going to end up in like a London or Liverpool and stuff like that. Birmingham is where I'm going first to kind of uh, pay homage of sorts, I guess. But since you kind of talked about it, what's the kind of music that, as a band, that you all have been listening to lately, or especially if you want to talk at least about you? I'd
Um,
love to know.
so like we listen. There's such a varied array in the band. Our drummer Charlie, he's into more grindcore, so he's into things like Nasm and stuff like that. James, our guitarist, he's sort of more, I would say, black metal, things. I don't know, like. He's also traditional, I guess, because one of his favorite bands is Every Time I Die. So, but I mean, he's more into black and hardcore and stuff like that. So, like Cursed and what have you, and um, The Secret and bands like this. And
Fuck, I
then
love, I love Cursed. What a fucking amazing band.
everybody loves Cursed. I mean, you're weird if you don't like Cursed. They're just class. They're yeah. Who else? Bloody hell. So Dan, our bass player, he's into like noise, metal, rock, whatever. Him and our drummer Charlie, they've got a band called Cattlefack. And they do
I
like
love the name.
well, they do like 15-minute tracks and stuff. But they put an album out last year, and it's a great album. It's just check it out if you get a chance. But but you can see the influence of that onto us with that as well. And then so Phil, our other guitarist, he's more of a straight up hardcore guy, I guess. So Knock Loose, all those sort of Kubla Khans, but like also the older bands, so like Marauder and stuff like that he listens to and what have you. So, and then there's little old me who is into, I don't know, I always come back to it, sort of your more commercial stuff. I'm into Limp Bizkit, I guess, and I
Oh
mean I
my
listen
God.
to lots of black and metal and stuff like that, but it's you know one of my favorite bands or artists is Taylor Swift, as daft as it is. So if you if you go onto our merch thing, we did a Taylor Swift T-shirt and what have you. So yeah, it's but you have to have a little bit of light with the dark. Do you know what I mean? You can't have it all hideous music, or in my life, I can't. And so that's how the influences all come in everywhere, in every which way they can, I guess. So
No, and it's funny that you say it because I was just having, Singapore is about a 4 hour or 5 hour flight from India. And Taylor
yeah,
Swift's playing a concert in Singapore, and people are going ape shit, right? Like, imagine people wanting to fly across countries to see Taylor Swift. And I was having this chat with my boss, and he was like, my sister is a Swiftie, but I don't get it. And all I told him was, trust me, when you listen to the lyrics, and I've heard like a few songs, they're metal as fuck if you think about it. Like, all you need
yeah.
to
Well,
do is just turn up some of the distortion and things. I mean, I don't know. Have you seen the Pendulum cover of Taylor Swift?
it came out a couple of weeks ago, didn't it? I think.
Fuck
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that. And see how it's the same thing, but just how metal it sounds, right? So
yeah. She's just great lyricist as well. That's the part, like you said. You just listen to the lyrics, but she sings from her heart. It's not
yeah.
like a processed load of shit. So that's why I like it. Where I'm taking my family to see her in the summer, so it won't be the first time I've seen her either. I've seen her, a few years ago, but it's I genuinely do enjoy her music. It's not because it's my daughter's favorite band or artist or anything like that. She's coming with me to see her, so it's the other way around. But
That's
like,
fucking awesome.
I like other stuff. As I said, Pearl Jam. I love Pearl
Oh,
Jam. I can't wait for that next album. I've been to see Pearl Jam, God knows how many times. My first slam dive was at a Pearl Jam gig. Before
wow.
before the first album came out, they toured on the Alive single in '92, I think it was, and we went to see them. didn't even realize we were in a takeaway shop with them because there was no press at that point. So we
Wow.
were next to them in this takeaway shop. Yeah. So like I said, my first slam dive was I picked Eddie Vedder up, threw him across the stage, and launched myself into the crowd. So I just love listening to music in any shape or form. If it's good, it's good. So
Wow. I didn't expect our chat to go in this direction, but fuck yeah, more
yeah,
power, man.
I could, I'm an old boy, you see, so I got to see Alice in Chains with Lane Stanley. I've seen, all the
Oh my
classic
God.
bands. Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
then I have to prod you further. Let's make it tough. Top three
Fire away.
shows that you'll never forget that you've attended.
Top 3 shows, right? Okay, I would say probably that Pearl Jam gig, just because of cutting my teeth, throwing myself off a stage. Secondly, was probably seeing Eddie Vedder doing solo stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I saw that, and it it had me in bits. I was absolutely bawling my eyes out a couple of tracks. So, third one, wow. My third favorite gig ever was it was a little festival called Tech Fest in the UK, and Acacia Strain played it, and I ended up luckily fluking my way onto side stage and just absolutely fangirling because Acacia Strain are probably my favorite band ever. That would be my be all and end all. If we got to support them in any way, shape, or form, that would be it. I could die a happy man in that. So that would be the one. That would be the third one, I guess. I'm sure I could probably think more and more and more and just go down the line. That's probably
I foresee like a follow-up chat where we only just talk about live gigs.
I'm quite happy to do that. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
quite speak to you about that.
Yeah. Post press cycle, I'd say. Let's do that.
Yeah.
I'll hold you to it. Okay. So I think the live gigs is also great. A great segue to kind of talk about your upcoming tour, which you've got across the UK with Yersin.
Yeah.
Considering just how different sounding, and if I'm being like really nitpicking, right? All your tracks are, or your albums are the sound. How do you kind of choose the right mix when it comes to a live set, especially when you're touring in support of an album, right? So how do you go about that?
Genuinely and honestly, we sit in the room and fight it out between us because we all have favorite songs. So the favorite songs get picked straight away. The big hits. That's stupid to say that because we don't have big hits, but the track Acid Breather, which isn't even an album track. It's never been officially released because it was on the game Cyberpunk. But people go nuts to that, and it brought so many other fans to us, I guess, or people to us, like through that track. As you do, you suddenly, oh, what's that track? And you go down the little rabbit hole, and
Yeah.
you end up going, oh, this is where we are. So yeah, people come to this. It's brought a lot of things, people to us, and it's brought us a lot of luck, that track. So yeah, it was literally one of the easiest tracks we wrote, though.
Yeah.
It's probably our heaviest track, fastest track, what have you. So that one was obviously going to be in. But yeah, as I said, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but it's a fight for what we all enjoy the most to play, I guess. So that's how we choose a set list.
Okay. And you kind of touched upon this earlier, so I definitely want to prod you slightly more. Since you've been sitting on the album for a year and you're now raring to kind of go. I'm sure the UK tour is just like the start. So at this point, what can you kind of reveal about any more shows that you've got planned ahead for this year?
Well, to be honest, I think because there's so many bands out at the moment bringing stuff out, where I think promoters and venues and what have you are sort of waiting to see what the initial feel is off the album. So we're like a little bit twiddling our thumbs a little bit. We're waiting for promoters and festivals and what have you, hopefully to go, oh, okay, it is a great album, because a lot of people won't have heard it yet, obviously. So once they've sort of put the trust back into us, or heard that we can be trusted with a festival or a tour or what have you, then I guess we'll hopefully get some more offers off it.
Awesome. Definitely kind of looking forward to news from that end and what more you'll have planned. You have a hot sauce that you all did. Tell me about that. But the second part of the question is, since you all have done hot sauce, what other merch would you all like to kind of do with the Mastiff logo or branding?
So the hot sauce was when we did that Tech Fest festival last year. The guy who does the sauce, he came to us and said, "Would you like to do one?" So we were like, "Yeah, cool." So he branded one up for us, and unfortunately, we're not selling it on our Bandcamp. We just do it at gigs, because obviously it's in a glass bottle. Sending it to people is an absolute nightmare. We've had so that's why we keep it to gigs, basically. What we would like to brand up, God, yeah, probably toilet paper. I don't know. We'll put our moniker on anything. We're fairly easy going that way. We'll let anything go with our moniker on it. So if people want something and ask us, if enough people ask us, then we'll put on we'll put our horrible M on the on whatever it is.
Okay. So before we wrap up and the final words, and this is something I have in my notes, which I'm definitely going to steal while doing the write up for this episode, is the best description I've seen from some of the write ups and the reviews is by Angry Metal Guy. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the website.
Oh, yeah.
And I love how they kind of described your album as, and I quote, "This is like being force fed a sack of muddy gravel and then taking body blows from a heavyweight boxer for 32 minutes. So I think that very aptly consider how much I've listened to Deprecipice. I think that's a pretty accurate description again. But final words?
Final words. Yeah, go listen to Deprecipice. It'll either piss you off, or it'll make you happy, or it'll make your mum tell you to turn the bloody thing down. We might be a miserable band from a miserable city, but we hopefully put a smile on people's faces.
Awesome. I think that's a great way to sign off this episode. Thanks so much, Jim. Really appreciate you taking time out and speaking to me.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks for giving us, your time. And hopefully we might, if there's Indian promoters and what have you out there who fancy a real dangerous dabble, we'll play anywhere with anyone. So yeah, bookers, we'll come and see you.
Awesome. Looking forward to that.
Thank you very much.
And that was Jim from Mastiff. I hope you enjoyed that chat. And if you enjoyed the single that we played, Serrated, do check out the album Deprecipice. It's out right now. I've left the links to the physical and digital copies in the show notes. And while you're there, why don't you let us know what you think of the album or any future music that you think that we should definitely check out, whether it's an EP or an album. I don't discriminate. And if you want to get in touch directly, if you're a band or label, drop me an email on trendcrusher@gmail.com. And I'll see you very soon. Cheers.